Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode here in the Arbitration channel in our Arbitech column. And this morning or this afternoon, depending where you're staying, I have Hanna with me. I'm really excited for this conversation, not only because we had to postpone it for a couple of times because of some issues that we have, like technical issues, but I'm really excited because I've been studying, I've been working, I've been investing in the legal technology field for almost 10 years, and I'm really excited to get to know new solutions. And what I saw about Aavalynx, it's really interesting, and I think you're gonna really enjoy it. So Hanna, a warm welcome. I'm really happy to have you here. And to start, I would like that you present you briefly about your trajectory, who you are, so people can get to know you better. Okay, and thank you again.
Thanks, Daniel. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure and a privilege. You talk about new solutions. That's really the big driver and the whole genesis behind what we created. So the brief background is that I grew up in the Nordics in Finland and ended up via California and Oxford and Cambridge in big law firms in London. And in those nearly 20 years of resolving cool disputes between countries and companies and individuals, came to the realization that we can do better to optimize dispute resolution for clients. And I particularly took the view that the billable hour is really driving a sort of thorn into the side of that relationship between external lawyers and clients. And the reason is that clients normally want a resolution, and the billable hour incentivizes lawyers to run the dispute over a long period of time. ICSID stats show that an average ICSID dispute takes 4 years and 8 months on average, which is really long. Simultaneously, if you look at the Bloomberg Law stats on lawyer wellness, lawyers are burnt out 48% of the time, and that's a really high number. And if you start from those problems and you think, okay, well, how do we give power back to clients and joy back to lawyers? That took me to two places. The first was Aavagard, the law firm I founded to really resolve rather than charge for time. And when language models came out, it was this penny drop moment. It's like, this is clearly what we need to be doing. Because as you know, Daniel, what we do as dispute lawyers is super manual. Like, we draft and research. And if you can bring a language model into those activities, you can really supercharge the whole process. And so then Aavalynx is that AI tool. And Aava is finished for an open landscape, because it means that we don't ram a procedural order number one down a client's throat. We're asking, hey, Daniel, what's a win for you? What's a great resolution for you? And Lynx is the cat animal that's super rare, because genuine solutions in the law are as rare as the links. Plus, we're connecting tech and humans, and I think we'll come on to talk about that. But that's kind of the big picture and the driver. And just on a personal front, I'm a mother of 2 boys who are really lovely and very opinionated. And so they take up a fair bit of my time, but they keep me laughing all the time, which is good.
Nice. And regarding that, what you spoke, I think it's like a pandemics on the legal practice around the world. But why did, of course, you had a background on litigation, on dispute resolution, from what you told me, but why focus on like complex litigation instead of consumer litigation or mass litigation? Because what I usually see is a lot of solutions, and very good solutions, focus on resolving like small claims and consumer claims. It's not usual to see a platform which is focused on complex litigation and arbitration. And why did you choose to pick up the toughest challenge?
It's a great question. If you look at the large value claims, it's a super valuable market globally. meaning that the amount of legal fees is easily globally in excess of 200 billion pounds. That's a really large number. And those are also the disputes on which lots of legal fees are spent in order to resolve those. And so companies and individuals with disputes have a very natural incentive to expedite that process in order to resolve them. And then there's a really interesting philosophical piece, Daniel, which is that if you look at small claims, lawyers often talk about whether AI could be compassionate and deliver justice. We don't actually care about that when it comes to small claims. Like Amazon is using some sort of bot to resolve issues about returning items. We're using blockchain for those. We don't really mind whether justice gets delivered. We really worry about it for the high value claims or claims where individual rights, human rights are at stake. So my thinking was, look, why don't we develop a tool specifically for resolving disputes, but without losing accuracy and without losing the human in the loop, who ultimately is the lawyer with the ethical responsibilities checking on the product. And actually, this is one of my big beliefs, is that nothing changes in the sense that if you look at the pre-AI world, if you are the partner, Daniel, and I'm the associate, I produce a piece of work, you check it, it goes out the door to your client. With AI, I use AI as the associate, and you check the product and it goes out the door. And so there is that supervising, controlling human in the loop who's verifying the outputs, but it's just faster and cheaper now because our AI tool gets you there with the original pin sites, everything. So you can just verify the product really quickly.
Okay. So talking about specifically the product, for those that are hearing for the first time about it, what does it make unique? Because even though what I said that we have a lot of solutions before the Gen AI age, still we had a lot of solutions online on online dispute resolution and case management and legal analytics and legal research. But with the Gen AI revolution starting by the end of 2022, at least in the legal practice, we started seeing some legal technology companies evolving and bringing some solutions in the field. What does make Aavalynx solution unique?
Very good question. I think there are two questions there, like why, like what's different post language models? Why don't we just, like we had the search engine world? And I think what's really important is that language models are good at predicting words, predicting the next possible word in a sentence. And they're very good at comparing text. And that was one of the core enabling pieces. And what makes us unique is that we bring together, I believe that generic legal AI tools are not that helpful, because if you had a tool that you could use for a bit of M&A, conveyancing, disputes, it's horizontal and it can only go so deep. But what we've done is with our largely Finnish AI team, who are like top brains, who work day in, day out with our lawyers, who are dispute lawyers. So we're bringing together world-leading AI people with dispute people. And they are every day looking at the tool going, okay, this is what a client needs. How can we tailor this so that it's actually delivering? And I think that's one of the unique pieces we're bringing to it. And the client feedback is like, wow, okay, for the first time, we have a tool that's fit for 21st century dispute lawyers because it's actually able to think like a disputes lawyer. So I think that's one of the core differences.
Okay, nice. And talking about technology, what sort of AI technology? Because I sometimes I see there is a huge problem between lawyers. I don't know if you agree, if this is the reality in Europe, in Finland, the UK, but lawyers generally have a very low level of AI literacy. So that's why I think it's important to explain which technology and then which AI technologies you are using in Aavalynx.
Totally agree with you, Daniel. That's been one of our foundational principles, that lawyers are slow to embrace tech, which means that when we created our AI tool, which is called Sisu, by the way, which is so SISU, which means perseverance in Finnish. Sisu has to be so intuitive and so simple that lawyers don't feel like they've got to work really hard to understand how it works. And from early on, I started having discussions with general counsel about what they want to see. And one of the bits of feedback was, look, Hanna, it's like I ran from A to B because I had no time to get on a bicycle, meaning make your tool so easy that I can just look at it and go, I get it. Which is why we've created 6 modules, which are the ones that expedite dispute resolution the most, 32% on average, but up to 70% on things like research. So we thought, let's not give people 50 modules, but 6 of the most important ones that really allow you to expedite this. And then in terms of what's actually underneath the hood, we built Sisu on top of existing models, and we're using OpenAI at the moment. So we're not recreating that wheel, but the work we do is particularly front and back end engineering in basically, or colloquially, Sisu's ability to think like a disputes lawyer. So how do you guide the processes? And one simple example is early on, I asked Sisu a question about, okay, well, on this case, has the other side ever committed this white-collar crime? And the summary that came back was sort of a amalgamation of what a arbitral tribunal had said with what the parties had said. And I thought, hang on, obviously not, because it's like dispute resolution 101 that, if a tribunal has said something or judge has said something, that is the most important thing. What the parties say is just raw material for that ultimate award or judgment. It's like, all right, Sisu, that's not how we think. Like, now we need to reroute this process so that you're actually giving us useful stuff. So I think that's probably an illustration of the technical work we've done. It's for a more in-depth piece, I'd love to connect any of our audience with our technical team if you want to understand more.
No, really interesting, really interesting. I think it's, I like to bring, when I bring people here in the channel, it's important that we touch in the technology, because I feel like sometimes I have to engage in this AI literacy mission and technology literacy mission for lawyers that are usually so averse on technology, and thank you. And a very interesting question, which not only the audience, but I'm very curious about. Are you focusing exclusively on law firms, or are you also providing services for legal departments, general counsels, in-house counsels?
That's a great point. Both. In-house counsel are sort of the most obvious client group, because they are the ones who are paying the bills, and they are often squeezed between the external lawyers and management, board, procurement. So they're reporting on, let's say you're the CEO and I'm the GC, and I say, well, on this dispute, I'm told it's going to last a year and cost $1 million. And if suddenly we're looking at it lasting 5 years and costing, $7 million, I'm always selling bad news. So the idea here is to bring a language model into it and make the in-house guys and girls look like superheroes. Take that pain away from the relationship between external lawyers and in-house teams. And we're getting great traction with that dialogue, because essentially it's like, we can save you some money and you don't lose any of the accuracy. And by the way, Sisu has this sort of creative component. It's like there may be arguments we've not thought of, which we're seeing play out. So those are fabulous, fabulous conversations. And I have to say, Daniel, the best conversations I've ever had in my career as a lawyer. Equally, we cater to law firms, and there's been an interesting trend, which is that law firms who are innovative, we call them the challenger law firms, they see an opportunity to take the tool and say, okay, Aavalynx, you can be the kingmaker here, because we can go up against other law firms on pitches, and we can say, well, look, we're not 8 people on the team, we're 3 or we're 2. We're no less accurate, but we're way cheaper because we're using this tool. So it kind of allows them to gain market share and then sort of use that AI wave in order to really thrive in the sector, which is, it's beautiful to see.
Oh, amazing. And talking about the usage of the platform, because sometimes we develop something and thinking about an area of practice, and then the user ends up using the tool in another totally different way. So I believe that Aavalynx is focused on complex litigation, arbitration. Also, sometimes I believe maybe administrative litigation, regulatory litigation. And you are working in different jurisdictions, right? When you talk about arbitration, usually you have almost a pattern that you can see in the cross-border work, in the type of professional, they have a profile. But when you talk about litigation, it will vary from jurisdiction, from state to state. So it's a carnival. So in practice, what's the field that Aavalynx has been used the most? Arbitration and domestic litigation, or regulatory litigation? What do you see generally?
I think the core starting point is that the dispute is really scalable, by which I mean that if you have a dispute involving a Japanese counterparty and a California counterparty, or different seats, it's the basic process is always fairly similar. And what is very similar is that by and large, the parties in a dispute want it resolved, and that's really important. And when you start from, and there are these exceptions with companies who want to use, say, patent litigation offensively. But by and large, a dispute's not a good apple, it's a rotten apple, it needs to go away. My experience as a dispute lawyer is that more and more my role started being strategic. So we've had these global disputes with different jurisdictions involved, and then we had local lawyers giving advice. But a lot of it is sort of, how do you push this towards a resolution? And that is surprisingly similar, irrespective of whether you're in a national court or arbitration, and in fact, whether you want to squeeze a mediation in there. And we're having very interesting discussions with the mediation specialists about how we can use Sisu as that kind of platform. And so I think the broad take is that it is absolutely translatable across different fora. What we will be working on, as Sisu becomes much more specialist, is that you can then say, okay, well, I'm in the English High Court for this one, so can we pick all the witness statement formats, all of that to match? So then it will be just super tailored. But the really important principle is that all of the core processing and expedition of a dispute is very similar across different fora.
Okay. So talking about markets, right now, Aavalynx is being used mostly in Europe and United States. Am I right?
That's probably right, but there's very significant interest globally, which is it's actually in harmony with my experience as a lawyer. That, as I was just saying, it's kind of jurisdiction agnostic, as you know, particularly.
No, of course, but I mean, like, generally, most of your clients, because what I'm trying to get here is, do you look at Latam as a potential market, and or are you already here? And because especially and when we talk about Latam, we can set up Latam apart, and then Brazil, because even though Brazil is in South America, we have a very different legal system, very different legal system. So if you could talk about that, because basically mostly of our audience is from Brazil, but I think it would be interesting to hear from you regarding that.
Yeah, so no, we are. So I think fair to say we're starting in Europe and the US, but if you look at it through the lens of our clients, who are blue chip companies with a global operation, they are global, and their disputes can be in Latin America, they can be in India, they can be in China, which is why you need a tool that can cater to all of the areas. So there's no, there's nothing surprising about that, and that's why we are always decidedly global. Obviously, there will be national differences in the way we litigate, in particular, let's say in India or Latin America, but that's just that you then take into account in the way you specialize the different modules for different countries. But the core principles are absolutely the same.
Okay, okay. Because what I saw in Brazil is funny because I've been following, as I said, for a couple of years and now the development of legal technology, and I saw that there was a huge boom in legal technology in the United States after the 2008 crisis, and we started seeing this movement in Brazil 10, 12 years later. And the reason was that we have many lawyers in Brazil, much more than the United States, and we don't have, for instance, a pattern of timesheet, timekeeping billing. We have, of course, this model, but it's not a pattern here in Brazil and in other Latin America countries as well. And we have of course the projections of the technology getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and when it gets very cheap, it's worth looking at it and maybe thinking about cutting costs, high in legal alternative legal service providers, and hiring legal technology companies. And you've been in the industry for at least 20 years, that you said. Did you see this as a global trend, the technology getting cheaper and cheaper and professionals getting more expensive, and the need to embrace technology to keep up with the competition?
Great point. Can you hear me? There was some,
yes.
There was some background noise. If you as a market do not use timesheets, technology is perfect for you, because you don't need to undergo this process of evolving your business model in order to know what to do with the saving that you're generating. So let's say you're charging, fixed fees or project-based fees. That's perfect for language models. Absolutely perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, and when you charge by the hour, then that conversation is more complex, because then law firms need to have an internal discussion about, well, how do we account for the saving? How do we share it with the client? And sometimes law firms will say to me, I'll just take your tool, but I don't want to tell the client that I'm saving money. But when you don't have that sort of, let's call it the legacy business model, when you've got an innovative business model, which is, forget timesheets, the application of technology is a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's much more simple.
Absolutely. And then to answer your other question, I do agree that technology gets cheaper. Lawyer fees, like hourly rates, are going up. We all know that. I think we need to be awake when it comes to the use of technology, because it is possible to actually use AI in a way that creates more volume and more work and more cost. So if you're sort of not mindful as a user of AI, and you just chuck a whole bunch of stuff into ChatGPT to create pleadings, some lawyers tell me that, look, briefs are 30% longer than they used to be, because there's less thought is going into what's being said. So the use of technology doesn't automatically mean that it's cheaper, but a really clever use of technology definitely means it's going to be cheaper.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree with you. Yes. So, thinking about, I would like to thank you, Hanna. It was really interesting, this overview, and not only the overview of Aavalynx, but also insights from the market. I would like to hear from you if you have any final messages for lawyers or institutions or legal departments that are exploring and searching and trying to embrace technology in their daily basis.
Embrace intuitive technology. So choose the tools that are intuitive and simple to use. And then you will get far, because then you're not battling complexity and sort of innovation or technology for the sake of technology. Choose the tools that really work for you, which is why Sisu and Aavalynx is specifically tailored for disputes. So one example, the 6 modules are, you can browse, but more importantly, creates a chronology for you, creates a dramatis personae for you automatically. We've got a strategy module, which is really, really interesting, helps you with drafting, helps you with research. So choose something that you think, okay, well, I can see how this is going to help us. So it just doesn't become a distraction and a cost. And when you make that choice, I think you're really going to enjoy it, and it's going to save you money.
Perfect. Hanna, thank you again. It was a pleasure receiving
Thank
you
you,
here
Daniel.
in the Arbitration channel. And looking forward to meet with you again and
Yes.
bringing you to the channel. Because what I say all the time here in the channel, this field is so innovative and is so dynamic that in 1 year, I bet that you have a lot of news to
Yes.
bring here. So I would gladly receive you again here to talk more about technology.
Do invite me back, because we're already award-winning, but it's developing really fast. And if anybody wants a demo, just drop me a line and we'd be happy to run it.
Okay. Thank you, Hanna. See you. Bye-bye.